Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the controversy surrounding Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle Outfitters. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Sydney Bernice Sweeney was born on September 12, 1997, in Spokane, Washington. She was raised not far from there in northern Idaho by her father, who worked in hospitality, and her mother, who was an attorney. In school, Sydney played multiple sports, including baseball and soccer. When she was 11 or 12 years old, she was hit in the face by a board while wakeboarding. This left her with a permanent scar near her eye. Sydney decided that she wanted to be an actress. When she was 13 years old, her family relocated to Los Angeles. Sydney graduated from a high school in Burbank and pursued a career in acting. She obtained small roles like Grey's Anatomy, 90210, and Pretty Little Liars. Sydney went on to land more significant roles in a few series like Sharp Objects and A Handmaid's Tale. As far as movies, she appeared in the 2018 films Under the Silver Lake and Along Came the Devil. Despite all these roles, Sydney really didn't achieve significant success until 2019, when she appeared in the HBO series Euphoria as the character Cassie Howard, as well as the movies Big Time Adolescence and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In 2021, she increased her level of fame when she appeared in the series White Lotus. Sydney continued to have success over the next few years, acting in movies like Americana, Anyone But You, Immaculate, Eden, and Echo Valley. As far as her level of physical attractiveness, which is important to the story, Sydney has characteristics that are typically favored under Western beauty standards. For example, her upper eyelid platform is clearly visible, and her eyes have a slight upward tilt at the outer corners. Many people believe this gives Sydney an innocent yet sensual look, which is both distinctive and helpful in her career as an actress. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On July 23, 2025, the clothing retailer American Eagle Outfitters launched an advertising campaign featuring Sydney Sweeney. There were a few different video advertisements. One video features Sydney saying, "Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue." At this point, a man's voice can be heard saying, "Sydney Sweeney has great genes." In another video, Sydney is talking as the camera pans down her body. She says, "My body composition is determined by my genes," then says, "Hey, eyes up here," as the camera abruptly repositions on her face. The advertising campaign was a big move for American Eagle. The company's sales have been down from this time last year. In the first quarter of 2025, they lost $68 million. There's this sense that they were trying to create something attention-getting to drive sales. It's not clear if they were successful with the sales part, but they definitely attracted attention. Many people criticized the advertisement campaign, saying that it promotes white supremacy and eugenics. Here are a few examples of commentary from the mainstream media and from social media. The campaign was offensive and regressive. It reflected an unbridled cultural shift toward whiteness, conservatism, and capitalist exploitation. The campaign featured racial undertones and was a tone-deaf marketing move. There were several comments suggesting it felt like Nazi propaganda, master race propaganda, and had a subtle 1930s Germany tone. The phrase "great genes" has historically been linked to celebrating whiteness, thinness, and conventional attractiveness. Having a woman who is blonde, white, and has blue eyes in a campaign about perfect genetics feels weird. The campaign was an obvious dog whistle for racists. It was not just about genes, like denim jeans, rather about who gets to be the face of America's best genes, like genetics. The blue genes, and genes as in genetics pun, is lazy and as uninspired as the genes it's meant to sell. People from other races should have been in the campaign. It was meant to provoke people by aligning with conservative aesthetics amid a polarized media environment. And some of the commentary suggested that educated consumers were the ones who were brave enough to call the brand out. Now, of course, not everybody feels the same way. Some people view the criticism as over the top and nonsensical. For example, Ted Cruz accused the left of being against beautiful women, and J.D. Vance offered some sarcastic advice to Democrats, telling them to label those who think Sydney Sweeney is attractive as Nazis. That is the perfect way to connect with young American men for the midterms. American Eagle responded to the uproar with a statement on Instagram, writing, "Sydney Sweeney has great genes, is and always was about the genes. Her genes, her story. We'll continue to celebrate how everyone wears their AE genes with confidence, their way. Great genes look good on everyone." Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. How many people are on each side of this advertising campaign issue? Is this really the rebirth and re-empowerment of the cancel culture, or does this involve only a small number of upset people? There's no way to know for sure, but an opinion poll conducted by the marketing research company YouGov may provide some insight. They reported that 52% of American adults believed the advertisement campaign was appropriate, 16% felt it was inappropriate, and 32% were not sure. 16% represents a substantial number of people, but it falls quite short of a renaissance of wokeness. I think the greater insight into this situation comes from the 32% figure, the number of people who are uncertain. This highlights how the topic is confusing. People aren't sure what to make of these cultural flashpoints that have been igniting so frequently. Is it time to be joyful with jeans or ditch the denim? They don't really know. Item number 2, will this controversy be good for American Eagle? Will this sell more denim jeans, or is it a disaster for them? Some people have praised the company's refusal to back down from the campaign as an anti-woke triumph, the dawn of a new era, one that is free of the cancel culture. I don't know if I would go that far, but it seems pretty clear they cannot take this campaign down. They are better off standing their ground. The backlash against them for retreating would be severe, because they would be caving in. It would appear cowardly. American Eagle needs to avoid making a commitment to be more aware of their implicit bias or anything that even resembles an apology. That would be the kiss of death. Right now, they're actually riding a wave of free publicity. Some of it may be negative, but I don't think that really matters. It's hard to imagine that anyone is actually going to cancel their plans to buy American Eagle products based on this campaign, but many people may be motivated to support them. Now it's not just about blue jeans, it's about fighting wokeness. Item number 3, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. American Eagle fully understood that the denim jeans and genes, as in genetics, play on words, could lead to some problems. Maybe they didn't think it would blow up like it did, but they must have known that it was not particularly clever wordplay, and it came with some risks as far as offending the woke crowd. Even so, what they did was not truly offensive. It was just an advertising campaign from a struggling clothing company who was trying to reinvent themselves. There's a significant difference between tacky and signaling the beginning of the apocalypse. For the cancel culture nonsense brokers who exist in a permanent state of being offended, the advertising campaign opened the door for more complaining. The core of the cancel culture belief system is very similar to the thought process of conspiracy theorists. Both groups believe they are inherently special, and they have an incredible ability to perceive threats that other people cannot perceive. They may even refer to this as a magical power or as a gift. Normal people look at the campaign and see a young and popular actress getting paid to help a struggling company with an edgy ad. Those who adhere to the cancel culture ideology see something completely different. They see a threat to democracy. They see the beginning of a plan to annihilate anyone who doesn't look like Sydney Sweeney. There are no degrees or levels for the cancel culture. Every perceived offense by someone conservative signals the destruction of civilization. I can only imagine that when they drive vehicles, their foot is fully on the brake or fully on the gas. From a statistical point of view, they only believe in the ordinal scale of measurement. One thing can be rank ordered as worse than something else, but the degree to which it is worse cannot be specified. Nothing in the world can be measured on the ratio or interval scales, like with numbers. The cancel culture not only believes that a catastrophe is just around the corner, they believe that calling out offenders is the only way to prevent this upcoming disaster. They have a special power and therefore a special responsibility. Given their tendency to take things to the extreme, again, there are no degrees, they often invoke unthinkable tragedies in history, like the rise of Nazi Germany. Everything gets compared to that time. It seems pretty clear that many of the cancel culture nonsense brokers have never actually studied the history of World War II or what led up to it. The rise of Nazi Germany involved a combination of factors which were not particularly subtle. For example, one-party rule, a violent suppression of dissent, propaganda campaigns explicitly rooted in racial purity, militarization, expansionism, and an openly stated ideology of hate. The cancel culture promoters believed that if they were alive right before World War II, they would have called out the evildoers and prevented the unimaginable tragedy which followed. They would have been aware of the threat when no one else was. In reality, many people were already aware of the threat, but a number of factors, including isolationism, political inertia, and fear, led to inaction. Maintaining a warped perspective, the cancel culture advocates sincerely believe they are preventing fascism in the present by pointing out potential insensitivity in advertisements for denim jeans. To them, there is no continuum. One day there's a cultural shift away from liberal values. The next day, the world is at war. It is important to be vigilant, but not everything that people dislike is a sign of fascism. That kind of inflation dulls the impact of real warnings. There are genuine reasons to be concerned, but if everything is labeled as hazardous, then nothing is. Overreaction can be just as corrosive as silence. The die-hard cancel culture believers are not the only ones who have expressed outrage with this Sydney Sweeney American Eagle situation. There's also a group that was specifically triggered by how this campaign is focused on physical attractiveness. They are angry over the unfairness of how attractiveness functions in the world. Research has repeatedly illustrated how being physically attractive imparts a tremendous advantage in society. For example, attractive people earn about 10 to 15% more than their less attractive counterparts after controlling for education and experience. They are more likely to be interviewed, promoted, and hired. People rate attractive individuals as more trustworthy, confident, healthy, energetic, and likable. They have greater success with dating, they get higher grades in college, and they are less likely to be interrupted or dismissed in conversations. This tremendous advantage can lead to envy by those who are less attractive. Normally, people don't like to admit that they are envious, but the cancel culture ideology allows them a safe way to express this feeling. They can disguise their true feelings by pretending that they're trying to prevent fascism. In the end, whatever the reason someone joins the cancel culture, there is this sense that the party is over. The current societal attitude toward this ideology is negative. There was a time, not that long ago, when the cancel culture had achieved some success. When it was new, the shock and awe campaign against celebrities, including social media influencers, took everyone by surprise. There was a moment when cancel culture almost seemed legitimate to some, but that time is over. The nonsense brokers are desperately trying to hold on to a time when they had power. They are desperately clinging to an increasingly ineffective ideology, which is slowly fading into nothingness. The cancel culture is not dead, but it is heading in that direction, and it does not have the impact it used to. The sad part of all this is how some people genuinely wanted to have a legitimate dialogue about the issues of race and attractiveness. With the cancel culture interfering, that's nearly impossible, because everyone who is critical of the advertising campaign will be dismissed as part of some manufactured woke outrage. The cancel culture has not only failed, it has caused the wholesale dismissal of left-wing critics. The extreme actions of a few have harmed everybody. The cancel culture advocates have been complaining about an impending danger to people having their voices heard. Ironically, the danger came from them. Those are my thoughts on the controversy with Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle Outfitters. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.